Heyo everyone, Hexi here. Today I'm going to be deviating away from my usual game-related content for a moment to unveil my own personal VTuber design. I figure since I've been at this for a year, I need to get my own unique look. Although I'm personally not an artist, I figure if I put my design out there, perhaps someone will like it enough to offer me an affordable commission for a more professional look. So, now allow me to introduce you properly to the terrifying true form of Hexi.Decibel. Hexi's a cyborg with robotic arms and legs, as well as a metal spine with connectors for various jetpacks, tails, as well as some other peripherals. The idea for that was partly inspired by Dead Space, but mostly inspired by the number of back pain jokes I get in VR chat. Now I can say, not a chance, nerd. I've got a metal spine. Speaking of boob jokes, though, yes, I am aware I will get more of them with this avatar, because quite frankly, her breasts are more like Hanalangalogangas. I had to make them big enough to strike a particular gaming stance that I like to imagine she strikes anytime she's at the arcade. That being a 90-degree bend at the waist, with her breasts touching the floor, and her face masked against the screen, since she is ridiculously tall. They aren't particularly well supported either, since her top is just a belt wrapped around the midsection of her breasts, with a little sweater material to keep the undersides nice and toasty. And she has a second belt wrapped around the base of her breasts, just because I like how the second belt visually divides up her chest area. The other prominent feature of her design are her star patterns, the largest one being her star-shaped ponytail, which I felt would fit in with old video game character designs that you might see on Nintendo 64 or Dreamcast. She also has a star-shaped headphones, as well as star-shaped glasses, after a friend of mine suggested that I add Kamina glasses, but I felt Simon's star-shaped ones would fit her theme better. She also wears a cut-off half jacket with a popped collar, which has stars on its shoulder pads and never gets zipped up because it's way too small. On top of that, she has a little cape arrangement that dangles over her shoulders on either side of her jetpack connector, as well as a spiked punk collar around her neck. The hairband holding her ponytail up is pretty simple. I just made it a metallic cylinder that might have RGB lights in the middle. To cover up her bottom half, Hexi has a pretty unique leotard that starts just under her breasts and is held up by yet another belt that wraps around her torso. It has a button flap in the front, for reasons. Don't ask. And it has coattails in the back, because I like how it flows with the little cape around her shoulders, giving her a somewhat regal and feisty design. You might have noticed when looking at the leotard that Hexi has a little pudge around the middle, a little spare tire going on, some jelly filling in her donuts. Well, I'm not exactly a spring chicken myself, and I like to joke that I'm a big girl after all. I think having a healthy amount of fat on my online avatar would be appropriately fitting. When it comes to skin color, I wanted to pick something that goes with her techno rave aesthetic, so I decided she needs to have permanent blacklight effect on her, giving her skin a purplish hue. To further exemplify her impish grins and vexing sneers, I decided to give her pointy teeth, which seems to be getting a bit oversaturated since Gura took off. But fuck it, I want chompers. Chompers, covered in neon pink braces, because I think the bright pink will look good on my purple skin tone and neon teal freckles. Her freckles, which dot her cheeks, as well as the tops of her shoulders, breasts, and butt. Not that you would know, perv. And I guess finally we need to talk about her hair. It curls up around the sides of her face, with a little bit that curls down in the middle, and totally wasn't inspired by a certain Cuban turkey. In the back it has smaller upward curls, which I felt would help the back of her head stand out more. Not that it needs to with a giant star ponytail on it. I was uncertain what color to make her hair, but my computer has these really nice color phasing RGB lights, and I had the idea that maybe her hair could have a flowing, color shifting RGB display effect as well, like fiber optics or something. As for her arms and legs, I still haven't settled on a design. I've tried to come up with something concrete, but I think I just need to admit that I suck at mechanical design. I do like the hands from the TR5 Kaplant or the TR6 Woundwort, though, from Advance of Zeta. They've got pointy red fingertips and jointed metal joints. You know, sort of like Adam and Eve from Near Automata. I have some ideas for back units, but I haven't been able to come up with much in the way of references. Started calling them funny TF2 sounding names, though, centered around the idea of Hexi being some master of psionic warfare, that being audio warfare, not psychic combat. Just to clarify. Like, I want to have a flight pack for her with jet wings, only the engines are jumbo speakers instead of turbines. I call that one the frequency flyer, because frequencies are both the measurement of sound and electricity, and the speakers suit her nerd rave aesthetic. I'm also imagining a virtual on style boost pack based on the Sega Saturn boosters. But instead of having rocket boosters, it would have yet more speakers. I call that one the bass booster. As for the last pack I've imagined for her, it has 2 extra sets of arms, giving her 6, like a Hindu goddess or maybe Mistral from Metal Gear Rising. It's partially inspired by Ashura's Wrath, and I call those my boom boxers, 'cause I can use the extra arms to box nerds into submission. As for the lower connector, I've only come up with 2 uses for it so far. That being that she has a tail with a 3-pin XLR cord, sort of like the ones you use to plug in microphones. And then I also came up with some hip-mounted wings so that she looks more like a mech when she's in her flight mode. Anyways, I hope you've enjoyed this overview of what I wish my VTuber could be. If you know anyone who won't break the bank on a commish, I'd love to hear about it. I'd like to get a retro video game style 3D model for VRC, Chill Out, or Resonite at some point. But for now I just need a PNG tuber for VitoTube Mini, since that's the program I want to use. And I feel like I'll have more of a presence during my streams using something like that. Ciao for now. Hexi out. Thanks go out to my Patreon supporters. Your donations mean the world to me, and I thank you for supporting my future endeavors.